This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company and Purdy Insurance. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Mobile today in Chicago, where the Big Ten tournament gets underway this afternoon with Oregon taking on Maryland. At Penn State in the second game will take on Northwestern at 7:30 Eastern. Run beginning at 7 o'clock this evening. The Maryland-Oregon game is a 5 o'clock game Eastern time, 4 o'clock here in Chicago. So we're at that time of the year in college basketball where it does take center stage. And you have bubble situations. Santa Clara last night put its name on a line that I think might be enough to get them in. They beat St. Mary's last night at the Orleans Arena in Las Vegas. And not only did they win the game last night, but it's how they won the game last night. St. Mary's in conference play is only giving up 64 points per game. That's it. Santa Clara scored 76 last night. And not only that, they scored 44 in the second half. And watching the game, they just played really well. St. Mary's led most of the game. Then there was a surge by Santa Clara in the second half. Then St. Mary's gave itself a shot late, and then Santa Clara closed them out. Now, for Santa Clara, it is their first Quad 1 win of the season. I know I mention that all the time, but, when you look at, people are like, okay, you hear the words Quad 1, what does it mean? Well, the meaning now comes down to neutral court games. It doesn't mean much like the other parts about road and home. Doesn't matter anymore because everybody's playing neutral games. So it's any win against the top 50 at this point. And so if you win a game against a team 1 through 30 on your home floor, that's a Quad 1 win. If you face a team that is 1 through 50 on a neutral, which I just talked about, and these are all the net ratings, the ones the NCAA put out. If it's 1 through 50, that's a Quad 1. If it's 1 through 75 on the road, that's a Quad 1. So everything now is the 1 through 50 range. And I mentioned already Penn State, as for example, Santa Clara got its first Quad 1 win. Penn State actually has 2. I know it's hard for people to believe, but they do. They have 2. They won at Washington, and they won against Iowa. All right, so they actually have 2 of them. Ohio State needed some Quad 1 wins down the stretch. Ironically, beating Indiana was not a Quad 1 win for Ohio State on Saturday because Indiana's outside of the top 30, and that game was at Value City Arena. But when you get to the conference tournaments, that's where the SEC and the Big Ten have a huge advantage. A huge advantage because there are Quad 1 opportunities all over the place. What strikes me now, I know Joe Lunardi has not put out anything today on the bracket, but Joe actually had Auburn in as the last team in. And I was really, really surprised by that. I was really surprised by that. And I don't see it. We're going to have Matt Catrillo on today. His guy, Aaron Judge, big game last night. big home run, threw out a runner at third, and Matt Catrillo does not want Aaron Judge playing for the United States of America. He does not want Aaron Judge playing for Team USA. He only wants him playing for the Yankees. I walked into the hotel last night, and when I walked in, it's right when Judge, literally, I was just standing in the lobby waiting. I think I just checked in. I was standing in the lobby and like, oh, okay, the game's on. I just looked into the restaurant, and restaurant bar, the lounge, and they had the game on. And it's right when Judge hit the home run. And I looked at these two people sitting at the table and said, it's the first time in my life I ever rooted for Aaron Judge. This half hour brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors. 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. I believe Matt is coming up shortly. We will talk to a guy who is anti-American. He just doesn't want Aaron Judge playing for Team USA. He just doesn't. He can explain again this week why he is anti-American. It'll be interesting to hear. As we continue from Chicago here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Central Penn Bank and Trust, like an old friend down the road. Central Penn Bank and Trust, we're the friendly faces you know, yeah. Big enough to help, small enough to care, there when you need us. Bridging communities, building your future. Central Penn Bank and Trust, 'cause you know we're stronger together. Central Penn Bank and Trust, make your future better than ever. Big enough to help, small enough to care, there when you need us. Bridging communities, building your future. Bridging communities, building your future. Central Penn Bank and Trust, build your future with us.
111 years ago, John Oakley Mertz started Sunbury Motor Company. Over a century later, the values of hard work, dedication, attention to detail, and customer satisfaction are still as prevalent today as they were when the company was founded. Why buy from Sunbury Motors, you may ask? The answer is simple. Our determination to provide you with a buying experience filled with trust, integrity, and ease of mind. Every vehicle need for every customer is a little different, but one thing stays the same. We value every one of our customers. At Sunbury Motors, you're more than just a number. You're family. From our customers who have been buying from us for decades to the customer who bought from us yesterday, we thank you, value you, and look forward to continue working with you. Come visit us at the North 4th Street Auto Plaza in Sunbury, PA, or check out our website at www.sunburymotors.com and be treated to a buying experience like you have never had before.
SMC is where you want to be for your next new Ford F-150.
At Mid-Penn Beverage, we know you love NASCAR. You have favorite drivers and race teams, and your favorite race day refreshments to enjoy while watching in the safety of your own home. So be sure to stock up at Mid-Penn Beverage on the best domestics, craft beers, including locally crafted brews, hard ciders, plus Smirnoff and Jack Daniel's hard seltzers and teas. Heather and the girls love helping you find the perfect pour. Mid-Penn Beverage, Route 522 Middleburg, getting you to the finish line on race day.
All right. Great to have you back on the show today from Chicago. And Aaron Judge homered for America. Very disappointed Matt Catrillo, who's told us last week he's anti-American. and the Eagles sign no one in free agency and lose like 25 guys. So far, so good.
Yes, Steve Jones, it is certainly not good right now with both those teams. Well, for USA, I'm in terms of the Yankees, but yeah, not good in terms of the Eagles. It has not been a fun 24, 48 hours.
What are you talking about? I walk into the hotel last night, check in, and as I'm about to go to the elevator, I noticed that Judge is at the plate for Team USA, and I watched him homer. I thought, I looked at two people at the table, and I said, that's the first time in my life I ever rooted for Aaron Judge. They're laughing. They thought it was funny. All right. Meanwhile, I thought of you, roots for him every single day, and now can't stand him.
I just want him to save everything he's doing right now for the WBC for when he's in pinstripes and the games actually count. That's my biggest thing. That's my biggest fear right now. And also, number one, to stay healthy.
This is for America. I mean, he's not going to.
We already did it. We already got the Olympics. It's time to move on.
Yeah, but this is a chance for him to actually win something.
Well, he's had his chances for how long now? So that's his own fault. How about he concentrate on what he started with in the first place in the pinstripes and actually hit homers in meaningful games in pinstripes instead of in the red, white, and blue.
How about Paul Skeens? Paul Skeens walked to the mound last night. He had Bobby Witt Jr. at shortstop. He had Aaron Judge in right field. He had Roman Anthony. He had Cal Raleigh behind the plate. He must have thought, I can't believe I'm standing here right now.
Hey, it's a breath of fresh air. I'll tell you what, I love watching that kid pitch. I can't wait for another year of seeing him unless he plays the Yankees, then it's a different story. But, yeah, good for him to finally know what star power and what actual real baseball looks like.
Let's get to the Eagles here for a moment because to my knowledge, I don't think they signed anybody, did they?
No, they have not. They've only lost people. It looked like they were at least in the driver's seat for Jalen Phillips before the Panthers came in and gave him a massive contract, which I get the Eagles weren't going to be in the market for. Looked like the Eagles were going to try to offer him about $20-some million a year. Well, he got $30 million a year with a 120-year, 4-year contract, and I think 65 of it guaranteed from the Panthers. So they weren't going to go in there. So I was as much as I was disappointed about that signing. I get it because we all knew going in that Jalen Phillips was going to be one of the top free agents, so he was probably going to get top dollar. And unless he was loyal to the Eagles, he was probably going to go elsewhere. But the one that irks me the most is Reed Blankenship going to Houston for only a 3-year, $24 million deal. Now, the Eagles still have $24 million in cap space. Now, I get it. They're trying to sign other guys. They're trying to retain, and they're only $24 million above the cap right now. But you tell me, you mean to tell me, Howie Roseman, you're supposed to be the cap genius, that you can't find some wiggle room to keep Reed Blankenship a solid safety for $8 million a year for 3 years? I mean, come on now. I think at this point, Howie Roseman's got his hands up in the air a little bit too much, and he's doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, Kobe Dean went to the Raiders. Phillips went to Carolina. Reed Blankenship went to Houston. Let's see, who else did they lose? Because they lost somebody else, too, I thought.
Well, Dotson left. He went to Dotson, Atlanta, I believe.
He did. He went to Atlanta. So, I mean, that defense played really well last year, and that's three. Like, Phillips is a situational guy. Dean's a leader and coming off a really good season. Blankenship is rock solid at safety. Those are three important guys on that defense to replace.
Yeah, the Eagles certainly are a little bit worse off now to what was their best unit last year. There's definitely some holes now. So this is a major concern, especially now with edge rusher. I mean, here's the thing I don't get is I don't quite know what the plan is or was. I don't even know if they even know what the plan is or was, and that's a big problem because it seemed like even though it was going to be iffy to bring back Jalen Phillips, it seemed like he was in the plans to bring him back. That didn't happen. Now you're slow at edge rusher, and now bringing this over to the other side of the football with A.J. Brown, where, again, there's a lot of money to decide with him, but you at least were offered from New England, apparently in a report, a first-round pick and a third-round pick. Now, I get it. There you would have picks 23 and 31 in the first round for this year, but let's face it, that is going to be in the prime market for both offensive and defensive linemen, including this edge class, which is really, really deep. So I would have taken that deal if I were Howie Roseman and taken the hit on the cap now, because it's not like you're not going to be able to do much anyway, it sounds like, because they weren't able to bring back Jalen Phillips. They couldn't even re-sign Blankenship for a relatively cheap deal. So what are you going to be able to do? So that tells me you're going to have to hit really well in the draft, and to me that's asking a lot. That's a tall order. So take another first-round pick when you have the opportunity to beef up both your lines at that spot. Plenty of talent to probably choose from if that's the way the board goes. So I just don't know what the plan is right now.
Well, Trey Hendrickson's still out there, and Joey Bosa's still out there among guys that can rush off the edge. No question that Hendrickson's the younger player, but they're still out there, and they are still available. I mean, just to throw that out there for you, maybe they're throwing their eggs into one of those baskets.
I mean, I would think at this point, but I think it's going to be easier to bring in a guy like Bosa than it is Hendrickson. I think Hendrickson's still going to command you a lot of money. Now, maybe he might take $20 million per year, and I'm guessing the longer this goes, that it'll play in the Eagles' favor because he's going to want to sign with somebody, unless he just wants to carry it out into training camp because we've seen a lot of guys do that recently. So I guess there are some pieces still out there, but I just need to see a plan in place, and I just really don't see it right now. And the longer this goes on that the Eagles don't sign anybody, the more and more pressure there is on this draft for Howie Roseman and company.
I mean, there's still, Bradley Chubb's still out there. At safety, Jaquan Brisker is still out there. So it's not like there aren't some guys that are out there that could possibly help, and maybe Arnold Ebiketie, for example, is still out there. I mean, there are guys that are still out there that may be able to command less money and have the chance to be effective.
Yeah, those are all good names, and when you look at Bradley Chubb specifically, I think that would be a good fit. I would probably like that the most because of course, his previous history with Vic Fangio, and he was very good under Vic Fangio. I know his numbers have kind of dwindled down a little bit. I think he may have had some injuries here and there, but I think that would be a good fit. I've always liked Brisker as a football player going back to the Happy Valley days. And the other guys you mentioned I think would be good fits too, and I think for the right price, they would be for the right price. So, I mean, like I said, I just need to see some execution here now from the front office.
Yeah, if they wanted a rundown linebacker, because he's not to me an everyday linebacker anymore. Bobby Wagner, even at 36, is still there.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that either. I think the Eagles lately, for vets like that, have been doing one of those 1 year prove it to me type deals, and I think that could be a good candidate. He could be a good candidate for that, as I think a guy like Bradley Chubb and Brisker and some of the other guys we've been talking about. So, yeah, like I said, there's options out there, but we got to see some movement here.
I mean, but you still have Tanner McKee, so you're good. What?
Well, here's the other thing with that. I mean, I'm going to bring this actually to Malik Willis because everybody's saying this is the contract that he got from Miami, and good for him. He took advantage of an opportunity when Jordan Love went down late in the season, and he played well, and he got his contract. But everyone's saying, "Oh, this is another feather in the cap for Sean Mannion." Can we just hold the brakes a second? I mean, if I were Miami or any NFL team for that matter, I'm not going to let one good game dictate if I'm going to sign a guy or not. Now, I get it. That's just how NFL teams are. They're desperate for quarterbacks. I understand.
Sure.
But that is the part that drives me crazy about the NFL today. And it goes to the draft, too, of course. Now, Fernando Mendoza, I think, is worthy of being the number one pick. So he's kind of in the minority here. But lately in the draft, you and I both know this, guys have been so highly overvalued because they're quarterbacks and teams are desperate to get their next franchise guy. So the Dolphins are trying to go this route with Malik Willis. But let's just pump the brakes here. We've seen the good, but we've also seen the bad and the ugly with Malik Willis. More of the bad and ugly than anything else. So let's just pump the brakes here as to putting the feather in the cap and Sean Mannion and thinking he could be the guy in Miami going forward. Let's just pump the brakes and see what happens if he plays well, and then, of course, what the Eagles' offense looks like, too. So I'm not ready to anoint anybody yet when it comes to Malik Willis getting the contract that he got yesterday from Miami.
Well, I mean, to his credit and to his agent's credit, they parlayed a couple of good games into doing exactly what you said. Was Willis a better player in the couple of games with Green Bay than he had been previously? Sure. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But you always have to worry in a situation like that about what's called Matt Flynn syndrome. Flynn, I remember watching the game. Flynn fills in, plays great. Now he signs with Seattle and then was beaten out in training camp by a rookie by the name of Russell Wilson.
That is a picture-perfect example.
And a picture-perfect anti-American rant by you at the beginning.
I just give you my honest opinion, that's all.
Did you like the Roman Anthony home run?
I guess it's fine. I'm just focused on Judge right now, not getting hurt.
I mean, should the United States baseball team invest in bubble wrap?
You know what? I'd be okay with that.
Matt, you have a great week. Thanks so much, friend.
All right, see you guys next week.
Okay. All right, half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. Look, we all have multiple insurance needs. We've talked about that before. And not only that, look, I think it gets to a point in life where you look around and say, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've done a lot on my own over the years. And finally it gets to the point where you look around and say, you know what? I'm sick of going around and doing this myself. There's some parts of this I help myself with, but I said I need pros, right? And you know, and I went to Purdy Insurance. Steve took great care of me. I said, look, I need to navigate this Medicare, marketplace. Now, were there one or two things I had to do because I had to do it? Yeah. But he got me the right coverage, the right plan. Like, I'm really happy with the plans he found for me and the really good prices, too. I mean, he worked hard. He gave me all these options for me to go through. And then he made sure, like, at the end of the year, there was a particular, on my Part D plan, there was about to be a change on something. He wanted to make sure I was completely aware of it. Got a hold of me, said, hey, just watch for this. I think it's going to be okay, but just in case. And it turned out it was okay. But I was watching for it because of him. Customer service, it means everything to them at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. All right, Penn State men's ice hockey tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Pagula, Big Ten tournament, take on Minnesota. That's at Pagula tomorrow night. For wrestling, it's a prep week to get ready for the NCAAs. All 10 are going. 7 Big Ten champions, 1 second place, 1 fourth, 1 seventh. And So that's what they have coming up. Women's ice hockey is interesting because the NCAA tournament field doesn't have as many teams. So Penn State gets a bye in the first round. They get to host. Princeton plays UConn at Pagula on Thursday night. Saturday at 2, Penn State will host the winner of that game, with the winner going to the Frozen Four. Oh, by the way, that's also at Pagula. Interesting spot. Now, Ohio State, Wisconsin, they're also in the mix here. So Mark Johnson in Wisconsin, yes, the Olympic hero who beat Vladislav Tretiak to close out the first period. I mean, yeah, that Mark Johnson is the head coach of Wisconsin women's ice hockey. But they're also in the mix as well. But Penn State in women's ice hockey, led by Tessa Janicki and 2 other Olympians too, will play on Saturday against either UConn or Princeton for the right to go to their first ever Frozen Four, which Penn State gets to host. Wow. So there you are. Penn State men's basketball tonight, Northwestern. Crazy game the first time. I mean, Dick and I were talking about it earlier today. So let's talk about from the Northwestern point of view. They had 3 guys in that game hit career highs. That never happens. Trey Singleton, freshman, who had 17 points at 18 boards in the game, played great. He's been a little up and down of late. He's been a little up and down. Some good games, some okay. All right, Angelo Scervino, who can have some good shooting games. He had 20 in that game. That was a career high. And then Martinelli equaled his career high with 34. But when you go back to that game, the turning point in the game was with about 8 minutes to go in the game. It's a really good game. It's winnable. And Ivan Juric went to the bench. Like, okay, well, it's not unusual for Ivan Juric to go to the bench at some point in the second half, and it had nothing to do with foul trouble. But he never came back. And at that point, the game got away from Penn State. Well, why didn't he come back? That's when he got sick. All right? They were saying he was cramping up, but it was more than that. He got sick, and he missed the next 2 games because of illness. And I remember when he finally was set to come, he finally was able to get back to a practice. I talked to him, and he said, "You feeling any better?" He goes, yeah, I feel better. And he didn't look good. Like going, yikes. I mean, he didn't look good. And he then missed the next game, and then he finally came back, and Ivan's played very well, actually, down the stretch. But that was the game where he exited with illness. And he's a guy that you need to keep on the floor. You got to keep him out of foul trouble. Martinelli is a terrific scorer. Experienced, quick. Usually when he gets the ball, it's time for him to score. Does he pass sometimes? Yeah, he does pass sometimes. I think West has become a better three-point shooter for them, the kid out of Penn Charter. This is now tournament basketball. The winner of this game gets Indiana, and Indiana desperately needs to avoid a loss tomorrow to whether it's Penn State or Northwestern, because they are the definition of the bubble team right now. But that game is tonight at 7:30. We're on at 7. First game is Maryland, Oregon, and that game's at 5 Eastern. And if you're wondering, the games are on Peacock tonight. So if you want to listen to the game, so where is everybody in all this? Mike, I've been referencing Joe Lenardi a lot, but I want to reference my good friend Mike DeCourcy. It's interesting. like I'll read other bracketologies, but I've been longtime friends with Joe Lunardi and longtime friends with Mike DeCourcy. I need to reference Mike here. Come on. This Mike put this out 20 hours ago. This is before Santa Clara's win over St. Mary's last night. So I'm really interested to see where he put Santa Clara, because they had Santa Clara on the 11 line in Dayton. And for Santa Clara, beating St. Mary's last night was an important step for them. So his 1 seeds are Duke, Michigan, Arizona, Florida. Dusty May, by the way, was Big Ten Coach of the Year. For media, for coaches, it was Fred Hoiberg. UConn, Houston, Illinois, Michigan State 2 line. 3. He's got Iowa State, Alabama, Nebraska, Gonzaga. And by the way, I'm doing this in the order that he has. He has it 1 through 68. He's got Virginia, Purdue, Kansas, Texas Tech as the 4s. 5s, Mike has Arkansas, Vanderbilt, St. John's, North Carolina. 6, Louisville, Tennessee, Wisconsin, which is playing great down the stretch, BYU. 7, Villanova, Kentucky, St. Mary's, Georgia. 8, Miami, that's Miami of Florida. Utah State, St. Louis, UCLA. 9, he has Miami of Ohio. See, he's the one that has them at 9. And I think Mike, everybody else has been putting Miami at 11. Mike has them at 9, and I think Mike is right to have them at 9. And I said Miami of Ohio was a 9 2 weeks ago. And Mike and I are on the same page there. Then Clemson, which I think they're on the right seed line here. TCU, he's got Iowa as a 9. A lot of people have Iowa as a 9. 10s, Missouri, Texas A&M, Central Florida, NC State makes sense. 11, he's got Ohio State, Texas, then the 2 Dayton games. He's got Santa Clara, VCU. I don't know if that changed for Mike DeCourcy after Santa Clara's win last night, because this was out before that. SMU and New Mexico. Then the 12s he has, and some of these are like projected number 1 seed, projected conference champions that some tournaments are over, some aren't. All right? So he's got South Florida. Since Yale's in first place now, he's got Yale at 48 as a 12. Stephen F. Austin, High Point's in. They won already. 13s, he's got Liberty. Northern Iowa's already won. Utah Valley, Hofstra. 14, he has Cal Irvine, North Dakota State, Troy, Portland State. 15, Wright State, East Tennessee State, Merrimack, Tennessee State. Then 16, Queens, which has already won. LIU, Howard, UMBC, that's Jim Ferry's team. Bethune-Cookman, and he's got the last team in as at 68 is Boston University. And, of course, they still have to play against Lehigh. So that's who Mike has in. Now, that's as of 20 hours ago. So, but we always talk about what Joe has. Every once in a while, I reference CBS. I got to reference, because Mike's another one of those guys. He's like Joe Lunardi. He'll get 67 out of 68 right. Right? And he'll get most of the seeding right. I mean, like the vast majority of the seeding right. And, again, these are not opinions by these guys. Okay? These are, when Mike DeCourcy and Joe Lunardi put out brackets, they are trying to use the criteria that the committee is using. They are not delivering an opinion. Now, when it comes time for each one to be interviewed, all right, when it comes time to do an interview, they'll deliver reasons why, but not an opinion as to why they have somebody in or out. They'll use the reasoning behind it, not an opinion. There's a difference. And that is something that that I think people have to understand. They have no dog in the hunt. They want to give everybody an idea, They want to give everybody an idea of how the committee is thinking right now. And those two are going to get, out of 68 teams, I'm going to tell you, I think the fewest they get is 65 or 66. Most times they get 67, those two guys. And when it comes to the seeding part of it, they get the seeding part pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. And that's why we reference the two of them on the show. Because, first of all, no offense, I consider them friends. How about Furman yesterday? Furman beat Georgia State yesterday to win the Southern Conference Championship. That Georgia team was trying to win 6 games in 6 days. They won 5 straight to get to the title. They almost got there. Furman finally beat them. How about that one? Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I mean, it's one thing that what makes this fun on championship week is that you do get so many of these games that go down the stretch tight. Everybody is sitting there trying to it's one and done time. You're trying to keep your season alive, trying to advance. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. I think there are a lot of people that make assumptions as to what happens, but there's definitely a different intensity, which I've enjoyed watching over the years. And this is the 29th Big Ten tournament, even though it's the 29th Big Ten tournament, because even though they started the tournament in 2020, they actually did play 2 games in 2020. So I go back 6 years ago. This is when all of a sudden everything shut down. I was in Indianapolis, and Dick Girardi and I were there. I remember it was Dick Girardi, Bob Taylor, Rose Carter was the sports information person at the time, and then Pat Forty. Let's see. Dana O'Neill and a couple of others. We were all there, and I had gone over before dinner. We were at St. Elmo's. I'd gone over before dinner with Bob to pick up our credentials because Penn State would be playing the next day. And the games that were going on were Indiana and Northwestern and Minnesota, Nebraska. And they were playing. In fact, when Bob and I went in, the game was being played. I mean, Indiana was playing the game against Northwestern at the time. And I would say that they were probably 12,000, 14,000 people in the arena because Indiana was playing. And we picked up our credentials, and then we went out. Okay. So we went to dinner, and that's when the Rudy Gobert thing hit. He tested positive after he was clowning around with the microphones and so forth, like the day before or 2 days before or whatever it was. And everybody's like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. And I remember I looked at the people at the table, and I was actually the one that said, I think we're done. Well, the next day, Dick and I were having lunch at P.F. Chang's in Indianapolis. And Penn State had gone over for shoot-around that morning. So I was in the arena that morning. And they had made the decision there'd be no fans at the games at all. No fans. And Rutgers was going to play Michigan in the opening game. And I remember seeing Brian Bush, who does such a great job of announcing Michigan basketball. Brian's a great guy. And he said, "While we're here, we'll see what happens." So Dick and I were there, and I said to Dick, I said, "I'm telling you, we're going to get," I said, "the Big Ten's going to send out something here in a short period of time where they're going to cancel this thing. I just have a feeling they're going to do it." And Dana O'Neill called from the arena, and she says, "It's really eerie in here. The two teams were warming up, and there was nobody in the building. Nobody. Except for, the media that's, like Brian, and, he was announcing the game, and Jerry was there for Jerry Recco was there for Rutgers and those guys to announce the game, plus the TV guys were there. And all of a sudden he's talking to Dana, and I said, "Dick," I said, just came over. I said, they two teams had gone to the locker room, and Dana said, "Geez, they just went to the locker room." The whole thing. I said, "Dick, it's over. It's done." And I got an email right away from the Big Ten. They were canceling the tournament. Well, okay, great. So that tournament does not count. That's why this is the 29th. They don't count that tournament. So next year will be the 30th when they go back to Indianapolis. And I was thinking about this the other day. There are only 7 of us that announced for their teams that did the first one. So, long-time friends. Went out and ate last night. Went out to dinner with Dick and I, Joe Girardi, Bob Taylor, and I went out with Johnny Holiday last night. Oh, the stories he told were just. I would have loved to have had a microphone to play back, and it would have filled up the entire show. It was 2 hours of Johnny stories last night, covering the Olympics, going over to Switzerland, doing Olympic boxing, and announcing with Ken Norton. It was really like, wow. I mean, it was a lot of fun last night. But Johnny did not do Johnny was in the ACC at the time, so he would not be one of those 7 guys. Sad note for me personally, and that is, it's a name that you won't know as a fan, but when I explain what he does, you'll know something about him. Tony DeSanti passed away at the age of 64 yesterday. A lot of the stuff that you saw, whether it was Good Morning America, a lot of sports, ESPN, Fox, BTN, Tony was a producer for. And Tony and I worked a bunch of events together, everything from basketball to men's and women's soccer to field hockey to baseball, men's basketball. I mean, Tony and I did a lot of events together, and that producer's the person that's in your ear. I was really tight with Tony. Right? And then when his son Michael, Big Mike, started pitching, and Mike's been trying to fight his way through him. Mike's a good pitcher, by the way. He is a good pitcher. Tony was in touch with me all the time. He'd come to games at Medler Field when Big Mike would pitch there. He's like, and 64 years old. I mean, golly. So you may see his name brought up on a broadcast or two here because he was so loved and revered by all of us that worked with him. I've had great relationships with a lot of TV producers over the years that I've worked with. Great relationships, right? But I was as tight with Tony as anybody I ever worked with as in terms of the producer-announcer relationship. And I've worked with a lot of terrific people over the years. Bill Amin, who's just awesome, and Jim Westberg and guys like that. I mean, so, yeah. Without question, it's like, but Tony, he was special. Going to miss him a lot. Coaches loved him. I thought the world of him. It's like, geez. All right. But I thought I'd mention that personally. You might see something from time to time brought up about him. That's who he is. I thought the world from him. He loved going to State College. Oh, jeez. So, all right, we're going to have Neil Coulong next. There is so much movement in the NFL, and I mean, you're talking some record contracts. Tyler Linderbaum got a record contract to leave the Ravens to go to the Raiders. Even Jordan Stout got a record contract for a punter to leave the Ravens to go to the Giants. They have more money to play with now. I think the cap is like 301, 302 now. There's a lot of money out there, and people are spending it. And not every dime's been spent yet. Trey Hendrickson, for example, has not been signed yet. And everyone people who rate these things, look, he'd be considered to be one of the top 5-10 free agents, and most people have him as one. But he hasn't signed yet. We're in Chicago. It is the Big Ten tournament. Penn State Northwestern tonight, round 1 at 7:30. We're on at 7 o'clock as we continue on News Radio 1070 WKOK, brought to you by Purdy Insurance.